not going to show any decks. We're just going to be inside the VS Code, running the Gemini CLI. I also have the Gemini code assist open. Like if any questions come up there, we can talk about that as well. But basically, this session is, I came back from Google Cloud Next last week, and I was working the Gemini CLI booth there, specifically the Subagents booth in the terminal velocity. And we had lots of great conversations with folks who stopped by. And I just wanted to continue the conversation, especially for the folks who attended Next or who couldn't go or who didn't find the Gemini CLI booth. So yeah, this is kind of the virtual booth, virtual session for the folks to ask questions and kind of learn the, see the demo, see the Subagents in actions, what we presented at Next. Yeah, at any point, please unmute or raise your hand and ask the question, and we can have a conversation. So yeah, it's looks like it's just a few of us on the call.
Okay, yeah, I understand. Yeah, I missed that. I didn't go to CLI terminal. I went to agent one, and there was not enough time to go every booth.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There are so many great sessions. Yeah, I feel like the conference should be maybe a week long, you know, to go everywhere. Yeah. But so like I'm gonna focus specifically on Subagents. There are lots of different features that were announced and demoed at Next. So this meeting will be about specific Subagents, how to configure one, what are the different options, and kind of what's available out of the box, what customizations we can make, and so on. Just to give the high level, kind of this is the end of the call, we're going to get to this state where we're going to have our local environment. So I'm here on my Mac. I have the Gemini CLI configured. I'm going to be running it inside the VS Code terminal. And what I'm going to be showing is how you can configure how you can add the agent configuration locally. So this would be under that Gemini folder /agents. And this is where you would put that file. And this would be the place where you configure either local agents or the remote agents. And in this case, we show a remote agent, and that agent is deployed on Google Cloud project on Cloud Run service. The agent is built with TypeScript and Agent Development Kit with ADK, and it's running on Cloud Run, and it's using the Gemini Flashlight preview model. Someone is trying to get in. Let me see if I can do it from here.
So you're using VS Code, not anti-gravity?
Yeah, I'm using VS Code. Yeah, let me see. VS Code, and I will be running the CLI inside the terminal, inside the VS Code. So basically, this is my setup. So yeah, so once we have the backend deployed, and welcome folks who just joined. We just started a couple of minutes ago, and we're going over the diagram, and we'll dive into configuration in a moment. So once you have that deployed, right? And again, we show an example with Cloud Run and using the Gemini on Vertex, right? Specific model, but because the agent talks A to A, agent to agent protocol, technically the implementation for the agent could be your favorite framework. Right here, we show an ADK, and we're using Gemini model, right? It could be your favorite framework, your favorite model that suit better the use case you're trying to do. So you have these options when you're using the remote subagent. I think I'll have to do the DJing to add people in. Hey, welcome, Saoirse.
I know Shirisha. We met there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Hi, Shirisha.
Hello.
So yeah, so just to like that was like a big topic during Next, and lots of questions were about okay, like what kind of use cases it can unlock. Because in your local environment, when you run in Gemini CLI, you only have Gemini family of models available. But with the remote subagent, you technically can bring kind of any model, any framework to build those agents, right? And also any runtime. Again, like here I'm showing Cloud Run, could be GKE, could be anything else, right? Again, as long as the agent speaks agent-to-agent protocol, right, you will be able to bring it into the Gemini CLI, or you can bring it into Gemini Enterprise, right, and use the same agent across multiple surfaces, as long as the agent supports A2A protocol. And once you have this configuration in place, right, you would start the Gemini CLI in that folder where you have that Gemini folder with this configuration. Gemini CLI will automatically kind of scan those subfolders and load those agents. On the first run, it will kind of ask to enable the agent, basically activate and enable the agent. You have to confirm that, and after that, it will be available for you to use it inside the main session. So I'll pause here for a second, like if any questions. If not, I'll start going into the showing the configuration and so on.
So I know on Cloud Run, agent run as a container, but how does it run on the local? Is it like plain build compile without container, or it's just a compile thing without container, or it even on local it goes as in container and then it gets run some local container run environment?
So there are multiple options, like you can configure the agent to kind of run. You're talking about the local, if you want to just create a new local agent configuration, not
Yeah, we
the
started
remote.
with the coding and we created a coded the agent, and now how it runs locally and Gemini CLI.
Yeah, there are multiple options. I think there is an option to kind of sandbox it. So yeah, there is multiple options you have available there. But yeah, for local environment, it would be different versus the remote. And also kind of the scaling, right? The local one just runs on your laptop. With a remote agent, this like you can scale, right? As Cloud Run can scale with GKE, for example. And that agent can be used by like the whole team or the whole organization, right? Depending on the use case that's being kind of implemented with that remote agent. So I'll just show some the configs, right? We'll go look at what the current configuration is. So for this Las Vegas agent, that's what we were showing in Las Vegas. This agent helps you like find the coffee shops or the restaurants around Mandalay Bay. That was kind of the demo that we were showing there. So here we kind of define the kind is remote. It could be local, and you just give the name, and then you provide the location of your agent card. So this is what's exposed on the Cloud Run side. And then we also use the authentication here, and there are multiple options. Here I'm using Google credentials, but you can use OAuth, API key, and I think HTTP bearer token. So there are a couple of options there as well. What I also was playing and wanted to show is out of the box, there is a browser agent that Gemini CLI can use. It's not enabled out of the box. I think it's still experimental. But with this configuration, you can enable it, and then you can also provide the domains that the agent can kind of navigate to. And I'm going to show this as well because I think this is very cool agent that's available as well. So like once you have this configuration in place, I'll show what the agent card look like. So here, let me switch to the README and scroll down. So this is like the example of the agent card is here. So let's talk about the protocol version, like the agent version, where it's located, kind of the skills that the agent provide, and then the details for the transport, how the CLI would talk to it. So this would be available on the kind of Cloud Run side. And this is the agent card that you would find there. So next, I'm going to kick off my Gemini CLI in a terminal here. So this is big enough. We're going to start exploring. Okay. So I ran this before, just to make sure everything's working fine before the meeting. So it didn't ask me about if I should enable it, but if you're doing it the first time, it will ask you to enable the agent and activate it. And then after that, you will be able to list the agents, and it will show you, like out of the box, if you run agents list, you will see these three, the code base, CLI help, and generalist agent. Because I put that configuration for the browser agent, the browser agent also shows up here in the list, out of the box and local agents. And then for the remote agents, this is what we put in for our Las Vegas agent. So it shows up here as well. So at this point, we can run we can start interacting with the agent. And let me know if folks on the call, you're familiar with the Gemini CLI, if you need like little kind of refresher what it is, or if we're all good, we can just continue. I will continue.
So at this point, agent is already deployed and running, and now we can simply, we are interacting with it.
Correct. Yeah, agent, the backend, so the Cloud Run instance already deployed and running, and we have the configuration locally that kind of points to that. And then at this point, I can start interacting with the agent, and I can start asking for like any prompt. Pretty much, I can ask it. So, and there are two modes of orchestration mode. So here, actually, I can say, let me do this, remove this. I would just say best coffee shops around. So here, I don't even kind of hint on what agent should I use, right? So Gemini CLI, based on what's available, based on the agent description, will pick the agents and delegate this task, this prompt to that sub-agent. So here I just said, okay, I'm looking for coffee shops. So yeah, Gemini CLI decided to delegate to Las Vegas agent, right? And you see how the prompt, so here I just ask, this is what I send, right? And it's kind of enhanced the prompt a little bit, and this is what's going to be sent to the remote sub-agent. And again, all the tool calls, I kind of approving manually. So, and this is what we got back, right? So we can see, I can click control. So this is what the main agent returned. And if we want to see what the what the sub-agent provided, right? So this is kind of this box, right? This was the response from the remote sub-agent, right? So we see kind of all the thinking there, and then the results, and then that was provided to the main conversation, main agent, and then it summarized as, okay, these are the options, and so on. Kind of this way, all the interactions, when we kicked off that sub-agent, right, it started with a fresh context window, right? Any conversation we had in main window wouldn't be polluting the context window for that sub-agent, right? It executed based on the prompt that it was given. and then provided a response, and that was injected into the main conversation. During at next, what we tried is we would ask, I would ask, let's say, what's the weather in well, let me do this first. I will say I like pasta. So basically, the couple of questions at next was like, okay, like what context, what's the main agent can pass into the subagent? Okay, it tried to, because I said I like pasta, it's like, okay, I probably want to try to find the restaurants. But all this, the main conversation, that's all these details about the user, right? Like maybe location, the pasta. Next time when I will ask the subagents for the restaurants, it would send the prompt saying not just to find the restaurant. It will say, okay, look for because the user likes the Italian, like food, let's say pasta. Search for Italian restaurant, not just any restaurant. So that was cool to see, and we like tested it at next, and it was fun experiment. But yeah, so basically this is that would happen. I'll ask what's the weather in Boston, kind of the unrelated to the food and Las Vegas question, and then I'll go back and ask Subagent again about like the restaurants to okay, let me ask good places for around. So let's see what the prompt, let's see what the prompt would be for this request. Okay. I don't think it picked up this time on the Italian, on the pasta bit, but during next it would, what I observed is like the prompt that it's sending to the agent, it would basically, because the main agent kind of has the context of the whole conversation of all the turns, what's happening in the main session. When it's sending the request to Subagent, it would inject those bits into that prompt and kind of tune it for kind of user preferences, so to speak.
So isn't that is part of something memory? We have to add that to memory before it can be used.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Good point. Yeah, that one option would be to add that information to memory, like to either to the context file. But I also observed that it would pick up that just based on like the prompting, it would pick that up. Yeah. And sometimes I think during like last week when we were trying this scenario, it would actually, when I provided the information about like the food that I like, it would actually suggest that, hey, like let's save it into Gemini.md file so we can persist it for the future conversation. So yeah, totally can be added in there as well.
And for the weather for Boston, did it use Las Vegas agent or it used directly?
Yeah, it just based on the tools available. So in this case, it picked the Google search and just run the query and then kind of summarize that and brought that back here. Yeah, so just to show you the tools, if I run /tools, that will show what's available out of the box. And this would be kind of the tools to work with the file system, run the Google search, download the pages, and so on. So depending on the task, it would pick the different tools. So you can also run it with the description and see kind of more details for every tool. But out of the box, these are available for Gemini CLI to perform like the search files or like run the Google search, yeah, and so on. So this is available there as well. So while we're here, I'm going to run the one prompt. Let me just go back in history and just to show the browser agent. So what I'm going to do, yeah, yeah. Just run. So basically the problem saying, okay, open Chrome browser and navigate to GeminiCLI.com site, and then take a screenshot and save it as a, okay, let's just do the site PNG. So what we gonna see next is it's gonna start a new instance of Chrome, and we'll go to GeminiCLI.com and then take the screenshot and save the website. So, and it's gonna, let me just do it side by side here. So like every actions kind of it takes, again, I have to approve it, right? You can do the auto approve, but I do it manually here. So like I mentioned, this could be used, let's say if you want to automate UI testing or any other workflow where you need to open the browser, navigate to a section of the website, maybe take a screenshot at every step, right? Let's say if you want to show like an issue with the application to reproduce for developers, right? You can create a prompt that would do that. And this is the file that I just created, right? So basically the screenshot of the web browser. Imagine if we ask to do it like every click of the way to get to specific, let's say, page, or like fill out the form and submit it, right? You can do it kind of out of the box. You have that available with Gemini CLI. You just need to enable the browser agent. I think right now it's still experimental. And also for security reason, right, you would need to allow this specific domains that the agent can use. So that this is available here as well. Part of the other conversations that we had at Next is what's if, let's say, if you want to kind of control how much how many turns the agent can take, right? You can configure for local agent, there is configuration to set the maximum number of turns. Basically, if you don't want agent to keep spinning, right? If you wanted to try like 5, maybe 10 times and then stop, you can add the configuration and kind of control the agent's behavior. You can also set up what tools and MCP servers agent has available, and kind of basically give it kind of persona, so to speak, and then with the specific tools that it can do. So one of the examples is, let me go back to the browser. This browser. So one of the examples I did is creating for the SDLC, software development lifecycle. You can have multiple agents like the developer or the builder, data agent, tester, browser, and DevOps. And every one of these guys will have specific tools. And like this would be the configuration, kind of specific roles with specific tools. Okay, in this case, these are all local agents, and then they come with like responsibilities, guidelines. Let's say this builder agent. If you want to create agents for your team, for your project, right, you can provide the details about the stack that you're using. In this case, I'm showing like Java and Spring Boot ecosystem, maybe in a version. And like all these details, all this context would be in the agent configuration. And then when you send in the prompt to the agent, we basically, the agent config would contain how, and the user would send the prompt, right? Like basically what they're trying to build, what they're trying to do. And then the procedure, the steps would be in the agent config, but the prompt is changing every time, right? That would be what user sends. So, and then I'll share that link if you want to look into this and try to run it in your environment. That would be available. So yeah, so this is we tried a couple of things. We tried the browser agent, and I can talk about the backend for the Las Vegas agent and the deployment there. And I have the links to the GitHub repositories added to the event page, and I can share that in the chat here as well. But you can find the links in the event page. And I think the Google Invite has the link to the event page as well. So this is the information how the backend agent was built, kind of the frameworks, and so on. So it's TypeScript and Node using Google ADK framework. This is the model that we use in Google 3.1 Flashlight. And I will talk specifically about the deployment to Cloud Run. Right, again, could be any other runtime. You can package your agent, build it with your favorite framework, configure it with the model that works best for the use case. And then, so here I'm showing the steps for the Cloud Run, the initial deployment. We will capture the service URL. So that for the agent to talk to Vertex, we're using Gemini API key. We're gonna save that in the secret manager, grant the access for the service account to access that key, and then kind of deploy everything from source. And we'll set those environment variables, the service URL that goes into the agent card and the JSON configuration that I showed earlier. And then this is for there is a code lab. Yes, Serge, yeah, I will look up the code lab. We had the QR code at the demo booth at Next. I will look it up and share it. Yes, there is a code lab as well. And also we have the steps in those. So basically this is the GitHub repo, README from the GitHub repo. You can follow the steps if you want to deploy it. And there's also the code lab as well. And then, so here, because you notice I'm deploying the agent, the Cloud Run service, and it's not publicly available. So I don't allow unauthenticated access. And then I would grant the access to my user that I'm running locally to have the role so it can invoke the Cloud Run. This way, the endpoint is secure, right? And only users who you granted permissions to can invoke the agent. And then kind of this goes into the details about the kind of the different prompts and so on. But yeah, you can either, following the steps in the README, you will be able to deploy the agent, and also we'll share the code lab. I will add it into on the event page so I don't send another email to your inbox. I will add it on the event page so you can easily grab it. Go back here. So yeah, this is kind of the building blocks for the agent. So I will open up for any questions. If anyone already building Subagents and want to share their experience and kind of their use cases that you guys implementing, I think would be great. Or we can just do Q&A.
Not yet, but I definitely want to try this. I mean, I have tried Subagents with the other frameworks, not with CLI and ADK. So just to understand the best use cases for this, it is for scope management or context management, and is it also for parallel execution?
So yeah, correct. For context management, right? Because when you start a new subagent, it will have a fresh, clean context window. It's not gonna have the only context it's getting from the main conversation, from the main session, is what kind of the main agent will pass as a prompt to the subagent, right? So yeah, this way it's kind of focused on that specific task, not distracted, but any other conversation about weather or anything else that happened in the main session. But yeah, and then for parallel, right now I believe they're running synchronously. So basically, the main agent would wait for the sub-agent to finish before it will continue. The conversation. So one way, if I exit out of my Gemini CLI session, so here I'm showing kind of the inner loop right inside my local IDE in the terminal. Like you can run Gemini CLI in the non-interactive mode. Let's say if you want to bring this logic into the CI/CD pipeline, like GitHub Actions workflow or any other like GitLab or Bitbucket, that you can call the Gemini CLI in the non-interactive mode. So let me just make this a little bit bigger so you can see. And basically, I'll ask best places for dinner. And so in this case, we can kick off as many as we want, right? These guys, right? If you're trying to do kind of one-off tasks, so this would be to run it. I believe like this would be right now a way to do it in parallel, but not in the main conversation of the inside the Gemini CLI session. So in this case, so I provided so we got the prompt here, and then I also kind of in this case I'm doing the auto accept of all the tool calls, and it will automatically run and provide the output, right? So we just got back the result, right? So imagine if you, depending on kind of the use case you're trying to do, this would be one way to, if you want to run it part of your CI/CD pipeline or even locally, right? That would be one way to do it. Like, and again, you can, I didn't invoke the agent specifically, but you can call the agent. You can kind of reference specific agent if you know like that would be, if you want to do it, just delegate to specific agent yourself. Kind of you're doing the orchestration in this case, or you can allow the Gemini CLI to do the orchestration automatically based on the agent's description. This would run and produce the same result. Do you guys use the Gemini CLI part in the like CI/CD pipeline, maybe like code reviews or any other use cases that you're implementing currently?
No, my case is only till just trying with different prompts. That's it.
Yeah. Only for personal projects, I think I want to do more. But at work, we do use Cloud Code.
Okay, yeah, Cloud Code is great. So just to show the, let me see, so yeah, one of the like projects that I did is, hope you guys can see that. So one way to integrate it, and there are different options here, but kind of on the left, it's our standard developer tooling. Here I'm showing GitHub Actions workflow, part of which we have our Gemini CLI with different tools, right? You can have MCP server configured, let's say for Atlassian. And then what this workflow is doing is we looking at the changes inside the PR and then bringing the context of the Jira user story, basically requirements, and checking that the implemented changes actually aligns with the requested changes, like what in the requirements in Jira. And if there are any issues, right, we can identify and put the comment on the PR or add the comment to Jira. And this is the identification phase, right? You can like stop here, or if you want to keep going and do the remediation with Gemini, right? So here I'm showing a couple of options. I don't know if you heard about Jules or Scion. I think there were a couple of sessions and booths that talked about that. So the Jules is autonomous coding agent, and Scion is the orchestration framework. But what's happening here, after we done the identification, let's say we found the issue, we can delegate the task to fix let's say if it's fixing documentation or fixing code, you can send the task either to Jules or to Scion, start the new agent. It will do the provide the changes, and let's say the output of their work would be either new PR with the changes, or let's say if you want updating the requirements. Let's say the common problem, right? The documentation gets out of sync with the code changes. So like maybe part of the pipeline could be look at the changes in the PR, review the README files, and if they're out of sync, automatically update the documentation either in a repository or maybe it's like on Confluence or like any other kind of system. Depending on the tasks, on the skills and MCP servers that you will give access to your agents, right? They will be able to access those systems and carry out those actions, right? With updates or pull the information out and so on. So yeah, there are lots of different ways. So basically we're moving Gemini CLI from our inner loop, our local IDE, right? Running it part of the CI/CD pipeline, and bringing Gemini Intelligence to automate any workflow with code review, checking that the changes align with the requirements, automatically updating documentation, and so on. Kind of it's all available by integrating Gemini CLI and running it in the non-interactive mode, like I showed when we did it in the terminal. I'll pause here for any questions. I know we're 12:45, we're technically out of time, but I can stay for and talk, if you guys have any questions, we can chat more.
In general, what is the strength of the Gemini CLI in comparison to when we compare? Okay, we have Gemini app, we have anti-gravity and other exactly similar prompting tools to generate, or Canvas or AI Studio. So what is that specific need for the Gemini CLI?
Yeah, so there are different, like, some developers, some users prefer IDE, some users prefer Gemini, terminal.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, the backend, right, the models, they both kind of hitting the same models, right? Gemini Flash or Pro. It's the different workflows. So yeah, it's you have that option, right? If you want to stay inside your IDE and use, let's say, the plugin here, right? You have that option. If you most of the time you spend in the terminal, where maybe there's no IDE, like you still want to use the Gemini like to help you with your work, right? You have the option of Gemini CLI. And also Gemini CLI, it integrates with, you can enable IDE integration, status. Interesting. I need to maybe update, let me do the setup, but this would allow setup. Okay, I need to maybe update one of the, something needs to be updated. But basically this lets you connect when there are any changes suggested inside the, let's say, update readme.md with current date. Like the changes, the diff, it would present it inside the terminal. But if you enable the IDE integration, and if you want to use the IDE native tools, so in this case, it's showing like, okay, it's hitting here. But if that IDE integration work, it would show me native VS Code, the diff window with the tools to accept or reject those changes. So like you can kind of, there's an even overlap, right? If you want to stay inside your IDE, but you still want to use the CLI inside the terminal, it's available there as well. Then I think with the with CLI, and I think the IDE might be providing that option as well. But CLI specifically, you have an option to automatically select the models, or you can manually kind of select the model that you want to work. You know, like let's say you're working on the workflow on the task where let's say you know a specific model like Flash specific version is the best. You can manually set it to that and just kind of run it. It's going to be configured and it's going to use that. It's not going to switch like between Pro and Flash. Right? With CLI, you have those options, but lots of functionality, lots of capabilities. Like there is a big overlap between CLI or the IDE version. Like they all support the like browser agent, for example. They all support skills, workflows, custom commands. In subagents. So yeah, it's kind of personal preference, I would say. Whatever makes you most productive, whatever lets you go fast. Yeah, you have options.
Okay. And just because it's a CLI interface, is there any limitation where it doesn't fit and you have to go to ID kind of scenario, or everything can be done in this CLI interface?
Yeah, technically you can do everything inside Gemini CLI. Yeah, again, depends on the what you're trying to do, right? What's the project? What's the task? So kind of picking the tool for the task is basically would depend, right, on what you're trying to do, what's you most comfortable with. So yeah. And there is specific use cases where you just only can do inside IDE, right? I can't think of any, but potentially, right? Or maybe there are some specific ones. Let's say like with CLI, you can put it in part of your CI/CD pipeline. Like obviously, IDE wouldn't work there, but CLI allows you to do that. And kind of doing the automation, so to speak, you can run, right? You can run CLI in this mode. Probably maybe some IDE support that, but like if you want to just run the engaged, bring the Gemini intelligence in this manner, I think that just the CLI allows you to do that, not necessarily IDE, right?
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Well, I know I'm okay staying and chatting more, but let me do. So yeah, I will add the link. I will look up that Code Lab link and add it to the event page next to the GitHub repositories. So if you guys want to go through the steps and set it up, you have all the resources available. Any last minute questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for joining. Thank you taking time out of your Friday afternoon or morning or evening. So yeah, it was great chatting with you. Great discussion.
Just one question, if you don't mind. So about the subagents beyond context. So when you say context, are we talking about just specific prompts, or can we also manage the session state or whatever files or memory, part of the memory that the subagent has access to? That is one. And the other is tools specifically, like, should we have like separate tools for different subagents? Is that when we have multiple tools, is it better to have subagents so that they use the tool in the right way versus like, you just define them only for task, even if there are multiple tools, that's fine.
Yeah, you can definitely configure, like when you're setting up the sub agent, right? If you would say trying to do kind of role-based, where it will be, let's say, DevOps or developer or QA, right? You can give the specific tools and MCP servers to that sub agent, and they would know, instead of, let's say, in the main session, right, where you have all the tools configured, right? You can have a long list of tools and MCP servers, and the agent have to pick which one works best. With the sub agent configuration that is specific for the role and the task and tools, right? It's going to be much more efficient to kind of carry out the task based on the limited number of tools it has available for the specific job. And also you have the controls, right, to configure, kind of list the tools the agent can use, the commands it can run. So from the governance perspective, right, you have the option with sub-agents. Yeah, and you can also configure that also, like for the main kind of agent for the Gemini CLI configuration, you can put the same, but yeah, agents gives you the kind of, when you create a new sub-agent, it has its own context window that is not polluted with the main conversation, so it's very focused, very efficient to carry out that task. And your first part about the memory for sub-agent. So yeah, in the instructions for sub-agent, let's say if you want the sub-agent to save its progress in, let's say, markdown file, right? For example, or it could use the tools to, let's say, maybe use some third-party system, right? That would go into the instructions in the configuration for that agent, right? And again, depending how you configure it, right, it can use those tools. Let's say if you wanted it to, every time it basically say it's a multi-step process, if you wanted every step agent to commit the changes and push them to GitHub, just making things up, right? But it would follow that, right? And it would do kind of follow that workflow and use the tools to do that. Or if it's just locally creating a markdown file with to-do items, so maybe the other agents can see the progress. Like, let's say if we started multiple agents in the non-interactive mode from the same folder, right? One way to set up the interaction could be through those either like markdown files, or they maybe use like more centralized place, like some, let's say, like database. Or whatever makes sense for the use case, right? That would be one way for them to coordinate, talk to each other, or like pass information between each other.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure. Well, thank you very much. If there are no more questions, we can close it here. Stay connected. And I will, if I'm going to be doing another session, I'll socialize it on LinkedIn, and would be happy to continue the conversation with you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim, and enjoy your weekend. Bye.
Bye-bye.